Humans of the Cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are looking at my favorite deck in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lair of Darkness. Yet again, Konami has given us a ton of support all at the same time. Not direct support, but in the form of the new Labyrinth archetype from Tactical Masters, and then as well as that, the new Bisted archetype from Darkwing Blast, and the new Lady of the Labyrinth from Darkwing Blast. Really allows us to expand on the way we've played Lair in the past. I think it does have a couple new ways to be able to play it, and that's what I'm showing you today. We're looking at 3 different builds of ways to play Lair of Darkness in a, I would say, rogue level status. I think it's a legitimate deck that can win a locals, top a locals, regional, still possible, but it'll be tough. Probably not good enough to top a YCS, but I'll take a deck that can top a regional for sure. So yeah, let's start off here with the first list. The first one here is Bisted based. This one probably has the most competitive viability just because I think the Bisted stuff, especially once we're in Tier Elements mainly format, these guys have such a good matchup versus that deck. It's awesome. They are just straight up hand traps. They are just straight up DD Crows that offer you giant bodies and more resources in the process. You've got starting off with the Lair stuff, let's start off with that. Triple Lilith, super basic. Double Tour Guide, you'll see this a lot just because of the new News Reporter Link monster, also from Darkwing Blast. Tour Guide by herself, or actually Tour Guide with any discard in hand, is Lilith plus a trap. And that's a Lilith with 2000 attack, and she's still on the field going into your opponent's turn with any normal trap. Really, really solid value. It makes Tour Guide a legitimate starter, not just a card that gets you to another fiend that's negated. It actually gets Lilith live, and I love that. So yeah, not too many normal summons though. 5 is fine for me. Arima at 3, obviously. Darkest Diablos is the only list I'm playing him in because of the Bisted stuff, can search him. Speaking of which, you got Triple Lubellion. He can search any of the other Bisteds, and then he can summon himself and search a branded continuous speller trap. Really good. Awesome card. Next up, Triple Magnamut. He searches a dragon on end phase after he's summoned, so you just can search Diablos or another Bisted, maybe one of the hand trappy ones, to be live. Really, really cool. They're also all 2,500 attacks, so they are huge. I love it. Druid Worm, when he's sent from field to grave, can send any special summon monster your opponent controls to the grave. And then Saronir gives you a Foolish Burial for a Bisted or branded card. Pretty cool. All in all, what I love here is that this feels like a engine where if I just draw Bisted cards with maybe just generic trap cards, we can straight up win duels that way. I felt like there was never really a great supplementary engine that would really function separate from the Lair stuff, where if you didn't draw anything Lair for the entire duel, you just kind of lost eventually. You eventually fizzled out, you ran out of resources, and your opponent won. This deck can just see the Bisted stuff and still just kick ass and take names. I love it. Into the spells, pretty basic. Triple Lair, triple Extrav, and then the one rebranded. This card is a draw every time you summon a Bisted, and it can reborn a Bisted from grave. So really, really strong card once you just get it in rotation. Going Extrav over Prosperity here just because you kind of just want to see everything in your list. There's no real like giant bricks in the list, so I'm down to draw 2. I'm down to draw anything in this list. It's really cool. And it's a better bait for to make stuff like Tour Guide Resolve. Imperm, I like doing Imperm here because all of these guys, I don't play any other hand traps or going second cards really. So these guys are all DD Crows. I like having a little more of some standard type of interruption going second. So being able to pair the DD Crow stuff in case it's a bad matchup with something like Imperm gives me a hand trap that could be live in a different matchup. Punishment, back to the front at 3, and then double D Barrier, double IDS, and the 1 trap trick. You'll see this trap lineup pretty much in every list. I think this is the trap lineup I feel the best with right now. Could be subject to change down the line, but I'm not going to talk too much about this going forward because traps come in and out. Then for the extra, Triple News Reporter. This card is insane. Reborns any fiend from grave. The Dark Charmer, obviously insane as well. Going higher numbers on those because of Extrav. Wee Witch, Phoenix, not that important, but they could come up. Unicorn, pretty cool to climb into off of News Reporter. And then the Evil Twins, Trouble Sunny, leading us into our punishment targets, as well as maybe like Artemis Slay if you side it. Triple Intis, Fossil Warrior, Skull Knight. the new aggregator card to negate anything, and then Wind Pegasus for punishing your opponent for touching your board. Pretty good all in all, nothing too crazy. You could also try and find room for super poly targets and stuff. Obviously super poly is great in this deck, but I think like the main deck you'd be super polying in the next format would be Tier Elements, and they all float when you super poly them. So I don't think that's the best route to go. A couple more things in the side here. Most important thing is Branded Beast. Another continuous trap for them. It can just tribute a Bisted to pop a card. But the problem is if you draw this but not the Bisted stuff, then this card's like really bad. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think I'm okay to kind of leave it out for now because it is kind of a brick unless you already have the Bisted engine online. So I'm okay. Metaverse, basic LAIR stuff, and then Lost Wind. Probably the best like trap, normal trap that didn't make the list for me. Just wanted to mention it. All right, so that's the first build. Moving into the second build is LAIR with Ties of the Brethren. This has been a build I've shown you guys multiple times on the channel. You've got triple Lilith, double Tour Guide, one Sangan, one Alice, one Skarm. I do think one of these could be cuttable, whether it's Alice or Skarm. I'm leaning Skarm. But I guess the argument is like if you want to Ties out Skarm, Skarm can search you Alice for a follow-up. So it can get back a Lilith from grave. And then be another tribute fodder for it. So I guess it's pretty good, but this does technically give us 8 normal summons for the level 3s, which you always have to look twice at. That definitely can have some cloggy problems when it comes to consistency. Just drawing 2 and God forbid even 3 or 4 normal summons in duels is really bad in 2022, obviously. Or really at any time, but really great being able to tribute Sangan to search any hand trap that we play out of these 3 targets. Alice for follow-up normally, or just helping us, you know, being follow-up or getting us to follow-up is really good. Skarm, kind of same thing. Then for the level 4 package, there's something I haven't gone fully in on in past builds, but triple Arima with 1 Ariana and 1 Skullmeister. This is a Labyrinth card. This is not really a Labyrinth build, but we're taking advantage of a very small package here. So what this does is by only playing 8 level 3s, I don't feel comfortable enough with consistency with ties. So we already play triple Arima. Now by just adding a hand trap in Skullmeister, level 4 Dark Fiend, and 1 additional normal summon in Ariana, our count of like ties targets goes from 8 to 13. Really, really good. And the value we get off of this play is pretty solid as well, because if you ties for the level 4s, you're going to end up with Ariana, Arima, and Skullmeister. Ariana's going to search you this card, Lady of the Labyrinth. It's essentially like an in-archetype Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Summons on the opponent's turn, protects herself, gets you a follow-up card. Really good. Very similar to Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Here, and then you go Arima, tribute Skullmeister, either draw a card if you want to find more interruption, or just go ahead and search Heavenly Prison as well. So you'll literally end with like Ariana on field, still Arima on field for, you know, potential tributes and value next turn, and also both of these in hand to protect your board. So it's really, really annoying for your opponent to break through. So yeah, 1 of her, 2 of the Heavenly Prison, 1 each of these little hand traps. I know it looks like a weird ratio because they're all searchable off Sangan. Depending on the deck you're playing against, any of these could be better than the other. So I like kind of playing 3 because it gives us just 3 hand traps with the imperms anyway. So that gives us 6 cards going second, technically 7 with the Skullmeister. Into the spells, triple LAIR, triple Prosp, triple Ties. I like Prosp here over Extrav just because to me with the Ties, I want to find that Ties play as often as possible. So I'd rather have a more targeted pot card, which is exactly what this is. And then to the traps, very similar package, if not the exact same. I think it's like 1 less back to the front, but other than that, exactly the same as the last trap package. Extras almost exactly the same. Then I guess I'll just mention some of these other like ties targets. Octhros, searching a level 8 Fiend, can actually search Lady of the Labyrinth, but again, trying to lean off of having too many level 3 normal summons that clog. Chandra, another Labyrinth card that can set a Labyrinth spell or trap by sending itself from hand or field plus discarding a card. Pretty cool, pretty interesting target. We'll actually look more at him in the next build. Barrier Statue, another level 4. You could play this instead of Skullmeister, but again, that adds our total to 10 normal summons. And it's just kind of a brick to draw unless you have ties to revolve around it. So like it's just weird. It's a weird like kind of just back and forth there. I'm choosing not to play. It's also like the worst Barrier Statue in the game. There are a lot of dark decks that just will not care about this card at all. Ariane, she's interesting because you can send a normal trap from hand or set on the field to just summon any level 4 lower fiend straight from deck, which is pretty cool. Just summon out a Lilith or something. It's interesting. Phantom of Chaos, pretty cool plays with this guy as well. We'll look at him in the next build though. Evil Twins, Kiskilil, like I said with the Trouble Sunny. Sanctum and Scythe, also another trap to highlight that didn't make any of the builds because I do think there's a way that Scythe maybe gets banned by the time we're actually getting this stuff. Or, like, you have to play the Scythe Brick. And Dimension Barrier is, like, also a similar thing, but just, like, not as bricky with the extra, with having to play, like, Scythe and stuff. So I'm going to get to the last build here. This is by far the most cheeky build, probably the least competitive one, but maybe the most interesting one. And this is a pretty hard LAIR Labyrinth combination. It looks kind of weird. There's probably some working out you can do to kind of fix some ratios here and really like slim down the deck and get to like the nitty gritty and like figure out the most trimmed down list there. But for now, this is what we're rocking with. Double Lilith, double Labyrinth Chandra, and one Sangian. That's our level 3 targets. Only 5, but that's okay with me. I didn't want to overkill it with normal summons. Here we're already looking at like double Lilith, technically Sangian, Ariana, technically Phantom of Chaos. There's like what, 7? And then also if you want to call like Backjack, unless you have a way to discard him, Backjack's just a normal summon as well. So you know, it's kind of weird, but still. The idea is you can go Lilith for Chandra and Sangan. Use Chandra with a card in hand to set your Welcome Labyrinth to get you into either Silver Castle or the Lady of the Labyrinth. And then Lilith contributes Sangan for the same thing as we saw in the last build. Get a trap and then Sangan. Potentially search another card, which could be something like Labyrinth Stove or Absolute King Backjack to potentially get more interruption on the opponent's turn. I forgot that I was playing Sangan here. I should be playing like Ash or Valor or maybe one of each in this list just to be searchable off him as well. That's on me. Triple Ariana, obviously like the best starter in Labyrinth, so yeah. One Arima, just one. That way it's live for the ties play as well as being like a card that you can just use as an additional searcher for LAIR if you want it. And then Phantom of Chaos, really interesting with this play. If you do ties for these 3 specifically, you'll go Ariana, probably search Lady of the Labyrinth or whatever, Welcome Labyrinth if you want something else, or even Labyrinth. Then you go Arima, tribute itself to draw 1 card. Then you go Phantom of Chaos, targeting Arima Engrave to copy its effects, and then tribute itself to draw 1 more card. So literally doing this ties play, just any of these level 4s with the ties gets you Ariana still on field for the follow-up she gives you with draws. Any Labyrinth card you wanted to search, plus a draw 2. So it's literally a +2 off of that 2-card play. Pretty cool. And then this stuff, double Stove just for consistency, double Absolute King Backjack to get you to your traps and extra interruption, 1 Silver Castle, double Lady of the Labyrinth. It's a more pure build, so I like this card at more than 1 here. 1 Labyrinth. Normally I play this at 2 because we're combining it. I also play the 1 LAIR, and to kind of make this feel like at least a LAIR deck, at least we're playing a LAIR, an Arima, and the Lilith to make this work. Triple Extrav. Extract is not that consequential, so pretty good there. And then the ties, of course. Triple Welcome Labyrinth, triple Compulse, triple Dogmatic of Punishment, as well as the double Archfiend Glitch and the triple Dimension Barrier. Just a lot of removal traps, because that's what works the best with a lot of your Labyrinth cards, as well as like a couple just power cards. Dimension Barrier can just be a turn skip by itself. And then Metaverse can get you to either this, which can be an extra interruption for you, or LAIR, which can be a floodgate, depending on the deck. I'm thinking about Marine Cess as one of the modern-day good decks that loses to this card. Same thing with, like, Salamangreat. Then going into the extra, like, same thing we've been looking at for the last couple builds, and kind of, like, nothing crazy in the side either. So, yeah, at the end of the day, like, really cool. I'm really just excited to get to it and duel more. Keep in mind, guys, I think like a pure Labyrinth build would probably just cut all of the LAIR cards here and ties as well and kind of do its own thing. So you don't have to do that, but if you want to do like a cool ties Labyrinth build, there is a way to do it. It doesn't work as clean as I thought it would originally, but I still think this could be a deck that you like top of locals with, straight up. But I do think these first 2 builds are the 2 builds that I want to focus on here the most, because I do think they have like rogue viability going forward. I don't think many people will respect them, and I think they should, and I think it will be their mistake to not. But I'm sure if you're watching this video, you respect it more than they do. So I appreciate you for that. But I'm out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the 3 builds, if there are any changes you would do, or if there's another type of build that I'm not thinking of here that you think could legitimately work as another strategy to kind of add to another way to play this deck. It's one of those decks where you read the cards and you're like, oh, this works a pretty particular way. But when you really get down to it, it can really do multiple ways, like styles, not necessarily styles of play. They're all pretty control based, but there are multiple ways to go about building a deck like this. And that's what I love so much about it. So there you go. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more stuff from me down the line. And follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.